Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Rukmini Dwarkadish Rukmini Dwarkadish Rukmini Dwarkadish Rukmini Dwarkadish Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jaya Goranitai, 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 Jaya Goranitai. Nitai Gaur Haribol, 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 Gora Haribol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi Haribol, Jaya Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Parivrajaka, Acharya, Asatara, Satashri Shiman, ISKCON BBT founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nectar Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisance unto personalities of God and Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, who is the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatittama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly attending the Srimad Bhagavatam class and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, whose worship with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're going to say a few words about today's scheduled verse, which is the 11th verse of the 3rd chapter of the 9th canto. And then we'll leave some time to remember His Grace Jayananda Prabhu. Certainly, if any of the senior devotees here would like to say something about Jayananda, we'll give them the opportunity to do so. Okay. So, Kasyachit tu Ata Kalasya Nasatya Ashamagato Tau Pujayitva Provacha Vayo Me Dattam Ishparao Kasyachit Tatakalasya Na Satyava Shamagato Tau Pujayitva Provacha Vayo Me Dattam Ishvaro Kasyachit Tatakalasya Na Satyava Shamagato Tau Pujayitva Provacha Vayo Me Dattam Ishvaro Kasyachit Tatakalasya Na Satyava Shamagato Tau Pujayitva Provacha Vayo Me Dattam Ishvaro. Please chant. Any of our esteemed guests like to chant? Kastyachit Tvata Na Satyava Shamagato Tau Pujayitva Provacha Vayome Dattam Ishvaro. Or the Jivan Prabhu? Or? Kasya Chitvata Kalasya Na Satya Vashamagato. Okay, Vaishnavis. Kasya Chitvata Kalasya Na Satya Vashamagato Tau Pujayitva Provacha Vayome Dattamishvaro Nasya Chitvata Kalasya Na Satya Vashamagato Tau Pujayitva Provacha Vayome Dattamishvaro Kasya Chitvata Kalasya Na Satya Vashamagato Tau Pujayitva Provacha Vayome Dattamishvaro. Okay, synonyms. Kasya Chit. After some time. To, but. Atta, in this way. Kalasya, time having passed. Na Satyao, the two Ashwini Kumaras. Ashrama, that place of Chavanamuni. Agatao, reached. Tau, onto those two. Pujayitva, offering respectful obeisances. Provacha, said. Vayaha, youth. May, unto me. Dattam, please give. Ishvarao, because you two are able to do so. So, Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. Thereafter, sometime having passed, the Ashwini Kumara brothers, the heavenly physicians, happened to come to Chavanamuni's ashram. After offering them respectful obeisances, Chavanamuni requested them to give him youthful life, for they were able to do so. Please repeat. Thereafter, sometime having passed, the Ashwini Kumara brothers, the heavenly physicians, happened to come to Chavanamuni's ashram. After offering them respectful obeisances, Chavanamuni requested them to give him youthful life, for they were able to do so. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The heavenly physicians, like the Ashwini Kumars, could give youthful life even to one who was advanced in age. Indeed, great yogis with their mystic powers can even bring a dead body back to life if the structure of the body is in order. We have already discussed this in connection with Bali Maharaja's soldiers and their treatment by Shukracharya. Who remembers what that is called? Yeah. Modern medical science has not yet discovered how to bring a dead body back to life or bring youthful energy to an old body. But from these verses we can understand that such treatment is possible if one is able to take knowledge from the Vedic information. The Ashwini Kumaras were expert in Ayurveda, as was Dhanvantari. In every department of material science, there is a perfection to be achieved, and to achieve it, one must consult the Vedic literature. The highest perfection is to become a devotee of the Lord. To attain this perfection, one must consult Srimad Bhagavatam, which is understood to be the ripe fruit of the Vedic desire tree, Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Palam. That's B113. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tilame Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paschachadeshtarne Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitang Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Hang Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru and Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vatam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vatangsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya evacha Patitanang Pavadebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is another one of those verses, purports, which convince a certain segment of society that this whole presentation is mythological. Give me a break. Doctors who know to give you back your youthful life, even though they're trying every day to do just that with their creams and their lotions, potions, they're trying to stave off old age. But when they read something like this in the Bhagavatam, obviously mythology. Some doctors that can give you your youthful life back, your youthful energy back, turn an old man into a young man, yeah, right. But as Prabhupada stated in the purport, in every facet of material life, there is a perfection that can be achieved, and that perfection is delineated, outlined, and told. We can find out how to achieve that if we read the Vedic literature carefully. So, some section of the Western society, they took that seriously. We like to use the example of the Germans. They had access to the Vedas, and they believed in the weapons that they read there, and they wanted to learn how to create those weapons. That's why they started on the atomic project that they started. Then the Americans and later on the Russians completed that project. They now have their atomic bombs, which are a gross approximation of the atomic weapons mentioned in the Vedas. As we know from the pastime of like Ashwatthama and Arjuna, that Ashwatthama was able to send a Brahmastra, an atomic weapon, to destroy the embryo in the womb of Uttara. And then later on he threw another one at Arjuna when Arjuna was chasing after him, and that's when Arjuna consulted Krishna. Krishna Mahabaho, this weapon is coming towards me, what should I do? And Krishna told him, you know what to do. So he got down, touched water, and then he threw his own weapon and counteracted. So they could finally manipulate atomic weapons, not like the gross ones they have nowadays. They throw it on a city, 30,000 people die, and everything gets destroyed. And not like that. So these perfections are there. But as Prabhupada also points out in the purport, the real perfection to be gleaned from the Vedic literature is to become a pure devotee of the Lord. And for that, you have to consult the Srimad Bhagavatam. Not Ayurveda, not Dhanurveda, not any of the other angas of the Vedic literature. One has to come to the Srimad Bhagavatam to learn how to become a pure devotee of the Lord. And as has been pointed out many times, it's not actually even learning, it's just reawakening the knowledge that is there. Because this pure devotion to Krishna, this attraction to Krishna, is innate, it's inherent in everyone. Just like our esteemed visitors, TOVP presenters have brought the Shatari of Lord Nrsingadev and the Padukas, the shoes of Lord Nityananda. So again, to a jaded Western viewpoint that you guys are just worshiping some material objects. If it makes you feel good, it's okay, but we know there's no difference between that object and any other object. But at the same time, many of them will say they believe in God, which means they accept that God is all-pervading. So if God is all-pervading, that means he's, as we know clearly stated in the Brahma Samhita, Anantarasta, Paramana Chayantarastam. He's in every atom and in between every atom. So he's in every atom of those objects. So why don't we see God's potency there when we look at that? So technically, yes, God is in every object, but whether they act potently, spiritually or not, that's up to God. It's not up to us. In other words, we don't bring just any shoes or any helmet and take them around and, God is in the atom of every shoe that's on the step outside, but we don't bring those shoes and put them on people's heads. So whether something acts potently spiritually or not, that's up to God. It's up to Krishna, not up to us. And the pure devotees know that. They know they can be empowered or unempowered by Krishna. Arjuna, for instance, again, using him as an example. When Krishna was present, empowered his Gandiva bow, he was killing so many enemies. But after Krishna left, he had the same Gandiva bow, and he was in charge of protecting the queens, and he couldn't do it. A band of cowherd men kidnapped the queens from him. So at that point, this is in the first canto, he lamented, not exactly lamentation. Sometimes we read the prayers of the pure devotees, and they seem to be lamenting about something. And then at the same time, Prabhupada would always remind us that lamentation is the hallmark of a Shudra. Brahmanas never lament. Kshatriyas don't lament. Lamentation is the hallmark of a Shudra. So are the pure devotees Shudras? Or no. The so-called lamentation of a pure devotee is ecstasy. Just like Prabhupada said, the Mayavadis, they don't understand when they see the Vaishnavas are crying. Why are you crying? You should sit down and study Vedanta, just like we have that painting here. Prakashananda Saraswati and his disciples, they couldn't understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's chanting and dancing and crying in Prayag. So Prabhupada said they don't understand that this crying is ecstasy. They don't understand that. The Mayavadis cannot enter into that realm. So they don't understand that. So similarly, when the devotees apparently are lamenting, it's not lamentation like that of a Shudra. I had something and now I lost it, I'm crying about it. Not like that. It's directly in connection to Krishna and their ecstatic relationship with Krishna. So Arjuna was remembering, he said, Desha kala artha yuktani hrittapo pashamanicha haranti smaratak chitam govinda bihatani me. So he's saying that now that I am remembering Krishna and specifically the instructions that he gave in the form of Bhagavad Gita that have the power, Desha Kala Artha. In every place, at all times and all circumstances, these words of Krishna, because they're non-different from Krishna, they have the potency to relieve the burning of the heart that we feel here in this material world. Or the devotees, when they're feeling burning of the heart, again, it's directly in relation to Krishna. It's not that they're lamenting over something material. Recently, we know there was that big earthquake centered in Nepal. Nepal is supposed to be the only Hindu state on the planet. But if after a disaster like this, they simply lament for the bodies like anybody else, and what's the difference between a Hindu state and any other state? Hindu state is supposed to mean that they have Sanatan Dharma as their goal, that they know that there's a distinction between the body and the self, that they know that everybody has to die at some point anyway. It's not that because you survived the earthquake. I'm sure there'll be t-shirts pretty soon, everybody's walking around, I survived the, yes, you may survive this earthquake or that tsunami or whatever, but death will come. Again, we don't make light of their tragedy and their suffering, but we should understand philosophically. We should see everything. This is what the whole Vedic literature is meant for, to teach us to see philosophically, Shastra Chakshusha. So when our own earthquake comes, because everybody's body is like a little city of 9 gates, it's clearly stated in the Bhagavatam. So when your own devastation comes, whether it's your personal earthquake or your personal tsunami or whatever, it's going to come, you have to be ready and not be in this mood of lamentation. Yes, we're happy for those who survived, just like yesterday they found one 15-year-old boy. After 5 days he was still alive. He was a worker in a hotel and it collapsed around him and he was in a little pocket. And sorry vegans, but he survived on a little ghee that he found. Just a little bit of ghee maintained his life for 5 days. So, so we don't make light of the situation. We certainly, our hearts go out to them again. We understand the pain and suffering and all that. But ultimately, there's going to be, everybody's going to have their personal devastation. It's going to come without fail. Krishna says in the second chapter that for one who's taken birth, death is certain. So we can't avoid it. We can't wish it away. We can't, or foolishly think that it's going to come, so let me just party till I drop dead. No, not like that. We have to prepare for what's beyond. Dhiras tatra namuyati. If we're actually convinced that there is life after death, that we will continue to live, that we will survive the death experience again, we have to be sober and think, then what is my actual engagement supposed to be? What am I supposed to do with my life? Obviously, I'm not just preparing for this life, I'm preparing for what, or should be preparing for what lies beyond. And not like Chavanamuni here, he's going to get his youth back for a certain amount of time, but that's not the goal of life. Just to remain young and enjoy. Because even if we get a life the length of that of Lord Brahma, still it has to wind up at some point in time. So we have to be ready, we have to be serious. We have to wholeheartedly participate in the spreading of Lord Chaitanya's movement. There's a nice verse in the second canto, first chapter, I think it's text 15, where it says, Antakale chapurusha agate gata sadvacha Chindyat asanga shastrena spriha deham tuyena cham. It says that the end of life, one should be bold enough to cut off all attachment to this body and everything related to the body. See? And take shelter of Krishna. That's what we're meant to do. This is what the whole training in Krishna consciousness is meant for, to bring us to this point of being bold enough to cut off all attachment to the body and everything related to the body. Prabhupada has a very lengthy purport there, but very nice. If you haven't read it in a while, I suggest you go back and read it. Because Prabhupada is stating there that lack of this knowledge, especially in so-called learned circles, is stealing the very vitality of human life. By not having this knowledge, not concentrating on this knowledge, that the end will come and you have to be prepared for it, they're literally stealing the vitality of the human society. Because then people's energy just gets channeled into creating so many unnecessary necessities. I already have an iPhone, I already have an iPad, but they come out with an iWatch. Isn't it? And I'm ready to line up. People are lining up for hours on end to buy an iWatch. Because they have no idea of what the goal of life is and how to achieve it. So the human energy just gets misplaced and displaced and diverted for all kinds of material so-called achievements, accomplishments, instead of, and then they're surprised when death comes. Those who are atheistic, again, this is more proof to them that if there was a God in control, how could he allow such a thing to happen and so many people to die? Upwards of 5,000 people now have died in this one cataclysmic earthquake. How could there be? Obviously, there is no God, or he's not all-powerful. Or no, these are foolish arguments. Again, because they don't understand that the soul survives the death experience. And it's just like sometimes parents, the children, they let them into the playground. And some parents have this mentality. Some parents are very, very protective. If the kid gets into a little fight, immediately they get in there and they want to prevent it. Other parents, let them fight, let them, whatever happens, they have to learn the hard way, whatever like that. Some parents have that mentality. So Krishna is like that. You wanted to come here and enjoy, so then, you take it on your head, whatever happens. That's mentioned in the 13th chapter. That the miseries that you feel, experience in the material plane are caused by you. You can't blame God for them. Karya karyam karchate. Hetu prakriti uchate. Purusha. Sarvabhuta. How's it go? Purusha. Sarvabhuta. Yeah, I'm mixing up two verses there. But that's what Krishna says in the 13th chapter. That the material miseries are said to be caused by nature. But actually the miseries that you're feeling are caused by you as a living entity. By your activities, by what you do, by your desires and how you try to fulfill them, you're creating reactions, good or bad, that you have to enjoy or suffer in this world. You can't blame that on God. So the entire universe is going on to this, impelled by the three modes of material nature. And we're meant to see clearly and be ready to cut off all attachment to this body, just like Jayananda Prabhu. Jayananda Prabhu, there's a letter from Prabhupada I'll just read shortly, where Prabhupada glorified him for saying that he was ready to give up this disgusting material body and just, go on. Prabhupada said, yes, this is glorious. We're not meant to be attached to this body forever. And, every little thing we worry about, and whatever you try to fix anyway, it usually makes something worse. Like I had a couple of cavities, and I went to a clinic down here in Venice, and after they fill the cavities, my mouth feels worse. Normally, naturally, your teeth fit together, upper and lower. But after filling, they did such a bad job, they don't fit together anymore. I can't chew properly. And I can't be bothered to go back, because, who knows, they'll just make it worse or something. So it's like that. Every time you try to fix something in the material world, it usually becomes worse. The remedy is worse than the thing that you're trying to fix. So Jayananda had that mentality that, he had leukemia and all the, attempts to cure, he just wasn't into it. And there's so many stories that some of you know, you can tell we have a little time. But, like when he was in the hospital and, he had him on a strict diet, but he was craving pakoras. So some devotee brought him a bucket full of pakoras and he ate them all in one shot. He didn't care about the negative impact on the health of this body. Body's going to go anyway, who cares, like that. So at some point in time, we have to develop this understanding. Not that we foolishly don't maintain the body. Prabhupada also said that. Krishna has given you this body as a gift to use in his service, so maintain it properly. But at the same time, we shouldn't foolishly think that by my yoga exercises and my walk up to the hill and back and my eating this and that, I'm going to stay healthy forever in this body. No, that's not going to happen. This body will be taken away, as Surah said, either piece by piece or, or in one shot. It will be taken away. We have to be ready. We have to be properly, we have to show that we've learned what Prabhupada came to teach us. That you're not this body, you're Krishna's eternal servant. Get into it, serve him wholeheartedly, and you will naturally detach yourself from all material circumstances. Okay, so it's Jayananda's disappearance day. The younger devotees may not know, Jayananda was one of the early disciples of Srila Prabhupada on the West Coast. He was one of those West Coasters, so, and the Prabhupada started in New York, so the early disciples, they were all from New York, that area. But then he spread west, and Jayananda was one of the early disciples on the West Coast. And he was a leader by example. He did everything. Prabhupada, I don't know if Prabhupada coined the phrase, but he used the phrase a lot, do the needful. In other words, whatever, Prabhupada is not interested in people coming to tell him, well, Prabhupada, that's wrong, that's wrong. Prabhupada said, if you saw something wrong, then fix it. Why are you coming to complain that this is wrong, that's wrong? You saw it wrong, you were right there, fix it. And that was Prabhupada's mentality. That's called doing the needful. Not that, I'm a Brahmana and I see that nobody's on the altar to do such and such, so let me run and find the head pujari and tell him, no, just get on there, you're a Brahmana, you're clean, get on there and do it. Then later on you can discuss what happened wrong. Not that I have to, always be looking for somebody else to do something that I saw that's wrong. So the mentality of a devotee is to do the needful. So Jayananda embodied that. He was willing to do anything for pushing on Prabhupada's movement, whether it meant going out and selling incense or driving a cab and giving the money to Prabhupada or taking out the garbage or giving the Bhagavatam class. Whatever was necessary, he was willing and ready to do it. That was his mentality. So because of that, he endeared himself to Prabhupada. Who wouldn't like somebody like that around, who's always willing to do whatever is necessary? So it's no secret. That was his mentality. It wasn't a fake mentality. He was a very simple person, very direct. What you saw was what you got. And devotees in general should be like that. Devotees are not meant to exhibit any duplicity at all, like it's stated. There should be no difference between the devotee's personal life and the devotee's public life. Whatever you see is what you should get. And so Jayananda was like that. He was very, very simple, and he tried to live simply and give everything to Srila Prabhupada. He was very frugal. He was educated, college graduate. But he lost interest. He studied engineering. He lost interest in that and just wanted to give his energy to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada again appreciated his sincerity, his devotion. And so when the end came, right here in New Dwarka, he left his body. Prabhupada is informed. So I'm just going to read a little bit and then leave some time for especially the senior devotees who may have met him or may know something about him they want to share. So here's one early letter before his passing that Prabhupada wrote. My dear Jayananda, please accept my blessings. I am in receipt of your letter dated November 13, 1973. I was very happy to hear from you. I'm always thinking of you and praying to Krishna for your advancement in Krishna consciousness. See Prabhupada's kindness towards his disciples. That you are engaged in street Sankirtan in San Francisco is fully approved by me. That you are feeling more and more enthusiasm by doing this is quite natural, as Sankirtan is our life and soul. My Guru Maharaj used to say, quote, one who has got life, he can preach, end of quote. Yes, I remember the old days in San Francisco. Krishna has been so kind upon me to have sent so many sincere disciples to help me push on this movement. on behalf of my Guru Maharaj. You continue with your program there in San Francisco, always strictly keeping our principles, and Krishna will bless you with greater and greater realization of the importance of this movement. I am dependent upon you, my older disciples, to carry it on. So this was Prabhupada's mood towards Jayananda, and then I'm going to read just a little bit of what Prabhupada said upon his passing. Jayananda's death is glorious. It is very good that he had stated, "What is the use of such a useless body? Better to give it up." He has left his body very wonderfully, and he has been transferred to Vaikuntha. I have already sent a condolence letter for publication in Back to Godhead. Everyone should follow the example of Jayananda. This example Prabhupada is talking about, being prepared for death and not being attached to the body. Everyone should follow the example of Jayananda. I am very proud that I had such a nice disciple. If possible, Jayananda's picture should be hung in the Rath of Lord Jagannath, and in all of our temples a day may be set aside for holding a festival in his honor, just as we do on the disappearance day of the other great Vaishnavas. So this came directly from Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada's instructions. And so we try to do that here in New Dwarka. We try to always remember Jayananda Prabhu on his disappearance day. And why not? Again, such a glorious example he set in his devotional activities and his passing from this world. I had the privilege of serving for many years along with Mukunda Maharaj, who was very close with Jayananda. And so he told me a lot of details about those final days, about that Ratha Yatra that they did in the 70s. 76 it was, yeah? Or the first one in LA, was it 76, Savas? Yeah. 76 or 77? The first Ratha Yatra here. 77, yeah. 76 was New York. Right, Jayananda was alive then, and he put on that. He was the driving force behind the New York Ratha Yatra in 76. I was here in New York at the time. I wasn't in New York, although I came from New York. Came from New York in 75, so I wasn't there for that Ratha Yatra. So 77 was that Ratha Yatra, last one that Jayananda was involved in here in New York. And he was just an amazing character, totally fixed on his service, whatever service that happened to be at the moment. And he was also extremely nice with people, not just devotees, even the non-devotees. After he left, literally, many non-devotees who had met him, they cried when they heard that he passed away. And many devotees were brought to the movement by Jayananda personally. Maharaj Das is one of them. Is he here? Yeah, he was personally brought to the movement by Jayananda and groomed into a devotee. So we were going to ask him to say a few words about that, but he's not here. So, but anyway, if any of the other devotees, somebody can get the wireless mic. If any of the other devotees would like to say a few words. Let's start with the senior devotees first, the proper disciples, see if they, any of them would like to say something. Subhas or Janivas Prabhu or... Yes?
Haribol.
Okay.
You know, Jayananda was a very frugal person. That was for sure. Sometimes his frugal nature was bewildering to many devotees. And he was the kind of individual never wanted to spend Krishna's Lakshmi for what he would consider to be like sense gratification. And that was, you know, he never really wanted to buy like new clothes to work in. He'd always go to like a secondhand store to buy new clothes because he refused to get new clothes or pay Lakshmi for them. So that was his nature. He always wanted to save Srila Prabhupada's money and Krishna's money. He was also so conscientious of spending Lakshmi that when he did the Rath Yatra festival, when he organized it, he would go to the food market, the fruit market, and he would look for free handouts in order to cook whatever they wanted to do for Rath Yatra or fruit salad. He would do that every year. When we were in San Francisco one year there in '74, he came back with one of these pickup truck fulls of just all kinds of produce. That was his characteristic. Of course, we have to go through it all, you know, before he could do anything with it. But that was his nature, very, very conscientious. And yeah, he was very loving. From the point of doing what we saw him doing about the yatra and doing the needful, Then I saw him in New York, and in New York he was heading up a women's Sankirtan team. So he was from all corners, all ends. Whatever was necessary, whatever was needed to be done, he would do it. He would build the Rath Yatra cart. Even if no one was there to help him, he would just do it. And so meaning that his characteristic was such that he was really a hands-on person.
Yeah.
He really wanted to do everything, and if you didn't help him, he would just do it anyway. And so that was his legacy.
Yeah. And he did it with full attention. Not that, oh, I have to take out the garbage, you know, I'm a senior devote. No, full attention to the garbage. He would do the garbage run, collect all the garbage, put it in the vehicle to take to the, disposal, and he would try to, like Prophet Svat said, involve other devotees, but if no one is available, he would do it. Full attention to whatever he was doing, whether it was building a cart expertly or taking out the garbage. So, Arcita Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
You know, one last thing was that I recall that not only was he frugal for that reason of his characteristic, but also in those days, ISKCON was very poor, extremely poor. So he didn't try to, in any way, waste anything, was the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of garbage, Jayananda was a transcendental garbage man. I didn't know him quite that well, but a couple of stories I remember. One, I think, was in perhaps the Berkeley Temple or San Francisco, and he was the president of the temple. And by his example, he would take out the garbage. And one day, somebody came from outside. He was taking out the garbage at the time. And they came up to him. They were looking for the temple president. And so they came up to Jayananda, who was taking out the garbage in his karmi clothes. And they said, hello, I'm here to find the temple president. I need to speak with him. I hope I'm telling this story correctly. And he introduced himself. I'm the temple president. And there he was taking out the garbage. So this is an example of his humility. That and what you were saying before, he did the needful. There was no question of he wasn't looking for a position or for some kind of respect. He would do anything that was necessary. So that was his humility. There's another funny story that he was also, although he was quite scholarly and would read Prabhupada's books, and he would underline things and make notes and things of that sort, but he was not very good at Sanskrit. So when he got Brahmin initiation from Srila Prabhupada, he came into the room and Prabhupada gave him the mantra, and he couldn't speak the mantra properly. And Prabhupada encouraged him again, try again. And 3-4 times Prabhupada encouraged him to say the Gayatri mantra, and he still couldn't say it. Never mind, Krishna will accept your sincerity. And the little association I did have with Jayananda Prabhu was on the Radha Damodar party, because he actually was with the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party for a short while. This was after Vishnu Jan Maharaj had gone to India and left us, and I believe it was on Mahamuni's bus. And he was just like all the other devotees. You know, he was a senior person, but he was just like all of the other devotees in the bus. He would go out and book distribution. He would get up and we would have our Mangal Arti in the bus. He would go out and raid people's backyards for flowers for the deities, just like everybody else, and just like an ordinary devotee. But but everyone respected him for that and loved him for that. God. Jayananda Prabhu ki jai.
Ki jai. Haribol. Any of the other senior devotees, Brigapati Prabhu or Naikatma Prabhu or any of the Matajins? Did you know Jayananda? You want to say something? Microphone over here. Oh, after you break.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just had one small bit of association with Jayananda. I was working in a legal office with Arcita Prabhu, about, I think it was 1976 or early 77, and I was in that New York in 340 West 55th. So Jayananda was there at the time, and he was already ill. He was in a wheelchair, and he was in the next office. That was like, the next office was where he kind of hung out all day. So when I was helping Bharatapa, like, in the morning, and then I'd go out on Sankirtan. So before I would go out, I would pop in there and, say hello and see how he was doing, and just ask him if there's anything I could do for you, any service, anything. No, it was always the same response. No, it's okay. Just, go out on Sankirtan. That's the best service you could do for me. Just serve Prabhupada by distributing his books. That's the best service you could do for me. So it's very difficult to serve him. He wasn't, looking for service, anybody to serve him, and even if you wanted to try to serve him, he was not, into that. So very humble.
Thank you, Mother Nagapatni.
This is a story actually after Jayananda passed, and about his mother. As a hospice nurse who decided to wear tilak one day. She went to her first appointment with a lady who was dying, an older lady. When she walked in the room, the family stood up with so much excitement. Said, "Oh, you're here, you're here." It turns out that this was Jayananda's mother, and brother and sister were there. And his brother told this devotee that he never knew how important Jayananda was to the movement, and that one time he was saw a Rath Yatra, so he went to see the festival and the carts, and then he saw his brother's picture on the cart. But they were very excited that a devotee came at the time that their mother was passing.
Just see Krishna's arrangement. Hare Krishna, thanks for sharing that. Okay, Sarva. Behind, Sarva.
I remember in San Francisco, the garage was right next to the temple. And whatever Jayananda was doing, he would always invite people who just were walking by to help. And it was just so much fun and, free from anxiety. It was just like any good association that you feel that this person's actually alive, awake, and you feel almost like normal. So I saw dozens of people stop to help Jayananda, begin to spend a few nights in the garage, and then within weeks they were shaved up and initiated, or months. It was actually amazing. So, thank you.
Haribo. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
I only knew Jayananda just a little bit in New York. I'm just feel very grateful for any association I had with him. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Haribo. Balaram had his hand up.
This is a letter from Giriraj Maharaj in honor of Jayananda Prabhu's disappearance day on May 1st, which is today. We submit the following account derived from a letter from Kalindi Dasi to her spiritual master Chandra Mauli Swami. In mid-July 1st, started wearing tilak to my work at hospice. I thought that since many other spiritual practitioners were expressing their faith by wearing crosses, drabs, silk threads, pentacles, and other items, I would wear my tilak, which tells the world that I am a devotee of the Lord. And I have found that wearing tilak at work has opened the door for spiritual questions and conversations. On the morning of Monday, August 6, 2007, after my daily report and medical staff checks, we began doing our usual task of caring for the patients. As ours is only a 10-bed facility, we are able to give loving care to each patient individually, often which I care for and bathe patients who are unable to do such tasks for themselves. I chant or sing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. On this particular morning, I was caring for a woman named Jane Kaur, who had been with us for almost a week. She was a kind and polite person, and I enjoyed the time I spent with her. Around 8 a.m. on August 6, I entered the room and found that she was getting closer to leaving her body. She was unresponsive to verbal cues, and her body was limp. I sang the Maha Mantra one last time while she received the final bathe. Hospice staff called her family, who were always friendly and appreciative for her care. When I finished, I spoke with some of family members in the hall. Jane's grandson approached me to thank me and then pointed to his forehead and to my tilak and asked if I was a Hare Krishna. I smiled and said, yes, I was a devotee of Krishna. Well, he said, then maybe you know my uncle Jayananda. The Jayananda? I asked. Yes, he said. And he told me how his uncle had built the Ratha Yatra carts, and he then went to inform his mother that I was a Hare Krishna. Gayleen, Jayananda Prabhu's sister, came out of the room and said that she was so happy that a Hare Krishna devotee had cared for her mother. The whole family expressed that it meant so much to them. Gayleen kept saying that she couldn't believe that I was a Hare Krishna. She said that she told her mother but wasn't sure that her mom could hear her. I said that I had a feeling she already knew, and I laughed. Gayleen and Jane, a granddaughter, mentioned that she remembered her uncle making real great Indian food and offering it to God, and then the family sitting on the floor and eating it. She remembered his robes and how happy he was. Jane said that he had been pretty depressed before meeting the devotees. I let Jayananda Prabhu's family know that during the Ratha Yatra festival, we hang a nice photo of him next to Srila Prabhupada's photo. They told me that an old friend of Jayananda, who is not a devotee, happened to be in Durban, South Africa several years ago and saw his first Ratha Yatra festival there. And to his astonishment, there was a huge photo of Jayananda Prabhu on the front of the cart. He had called Gayleen to share the news. They told me that Jayananda was always very kind, even as a child, and never spoke badly of others. From the many stories they told me, his saintly qualities shone through even in his childhood. Gayleen told me that her brother once spent hours on a family vacation at a beach picking ticks and fleas of a homeless dog. He couldn't stand to watch it suffering. Jayananda's nephew told me about running around the kitchen table as a small child with his uncle, and he was laughing and chanting Hare Krishna. When I went back into Jane's room, the family was gathered around her bed, holding her hand. Her breaths were faint, and she was about to leave her body. I stepped out to give the family some space, and about 5 minutes later, they came to the front desk and asked me to look at her. When I opened the door, I saw her body turn yellow and waxy. It was apparent that the soul has left and that the physical body was all that remained. The nurse reported that she has passed, and the family, though sad, also felt relief. Gayleen told me that she has asked her brother for support. She was asking Jayananda, she was praying to Jayananda. Since he couldn't physically be there, Mom their mother's passing, she has been looking for a sign that he was supporting her. She felt that a Hare Krishna devotee being present there and caring for her mother was not a mere coincidence. It was, I believe, Krishna's endless mercy. I thank the relatives for allowing me to serve their family, offered my pranams, and said, Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Jayananda Prabhu ki.
Haribo. All right, if there's anybody else who would like to speak something. All right. Jayananda Prabhu ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hari Hari Bol. Oh yeah?